Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Random Trek. It's movie night, and I hope that Hal will open up the Bombay doors because today we are taking a look at a sci-fi classic, 1968's 2001, A Space Odyssey. Joined as always, my first officer, Commander Brennan, the Mystical Mark. Brennan, your chair isn't controlled by Hal, is it?
I'm sorry, Chris. I'm afraid I can't do that.
I always knew he was a robot. I knew it.
Yes.
But we're not alone. We're not alone. Taking a look at such a heady film, we needed a little help. But today, joining us today is our good friend of the show, Mr. Scott Ferguson. Scott, how you doing?
That's Admiral Scott Ferguson to you.
I didn't see any
Right. We didn't
military
give
in
him
this
the
movie,
rank.
so I just went with
Yes.
Mr. It is Admiral. Absolutely is. He outranks me. But how are you doing, Admiral?
Staying alive, which is significant comparing who we're going up against.
Yeah, quite a bit. All right. I'm gonna get right into it because this film has a lot to talk about. So I turn the con over to Commander Brennan.
Thank you, Captain Sir. Yes, this film is regarded by many as the greatest science fiction film ever made. Um, I think I might be in agreement with that sentiment. And certainly perhaps the most influential sci-fi film, but not just sci-fi, but film in general. Um, It is very little surprise that the most influential filmmaker of the 21st century was Christopher Nolan, I think, cites this as one of his biggest influences. And certainly, if you've seen Interstellar, there are a lot of parallels. Yes, the 1968 classic 2001, directed, of course, by Stanley Kubrick, written by him and Arthur C. Clarke. Clarke, of course, one of the greatest science fiction writers there is, and what a film. Mm. And as we said, there is so much we could say, but let's start with this. We'll ask our guest, Scott, when did you first see this film?
I first saw 2001 A Space Odyssey when I was maybe 12, and I was previously aware of the movie. I first learned of the existence of 2001 from an issue of Boys Life magazine.
Mm?
They for those who are not aware, Boys Life is the official magazine of what was then known as the Boy Scouts of America. And the magazine had done an article on various science fiction spaceships, such as the Enterprise D, the an Imperial Star Destroyer, and so on. And one of the ships they talked about was Discovery One.
Mm.
And there's in their short description of the ship, they gave us kind of a short synopsis of what the movie was about, but they only said that the ship had been sent to Jupiter to explore it. They talked about HAL 9000 going bonkers and killing most of the crew. And then one crew member survives, shuts down HAL, and flees the ship, and pretty much leaves it at that. It says nothing about the monolith or the apes or the Stargate sequence. It doesn't go into any of the weird stuff in the movie. So so when I got into the movie itself, I wasn't ready.
Yeah, I mean,
And
few people are.
Incidentally, I have also seen 2001 in theaters.
Yeah, I have not gotten that opportunity yet. And that must have been something.
Oh yeah, it was part of the Cinemark Classic series when I went to see it.
Well, we're coming up on its 60th anniversary, so it'll probably be in theaters again. But yes, I seem to recall watching this at your house, Scott.
Sounds about right.
Um,
I do remember
yeah,
that you and I watched the sequel together.
yes, 2010, the year remake also. Yes, for me, I was not aware of this film at all until I was probably 10 years old. It was on television, and it was the scene with the apes discovering the monolith. I had no idea what I was watching. It was like, what the heck? Um, and I think I saw it all the way through the first time, probably at your house, Scott.
Makes
And
sense.
what a movie! I didn't understand it when I was younger. I still don't understand it, but I love it. Chris, now I believe you saw this all the way through recently.
I did. I've always tried to take this film into chunks, and I'm
Mhm.
going to admit it, and I've said it before. This movie bores me. But I will give that to this is a 1960s film made by a very, very heady director. Nothing Kubrick does is ever direct or to the point. Everything makes you think. And I both like and dislike when Kubrick does that. I appreciate it as an artist, but as a person watching, sometimes like let's just get to the point. Um and the thing with this is yes, for this watch through I finally made it through an entire session. I tried to chunk it, that wasn't working. I bit the bullet and I just watched it from beginning to end last night.
Mhm.
Finally, just all in one sitting. Um, you know, I recognize the ideas that are presented here, and the themes and the ideas that Kubrick has. But this is one of those films that it is the most adult G-rated film I've ever seen. It's a G-rated film. Which to its extent, I like that. I appreciate that Kubrick does not do that. Go to IMDb, it's a G-rated film.
Let
It's
me
a G.
one up you on that
Yeah.
Okay.
and direct your attention to the Planet of the Apes movies.
Is that
Those were
G-rated?
Mhm.
Most of those were G-rated.
I did not know that. Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
the
Okay.
fourth one, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, is PG for violence, but the others are all rated G.
Yeah,
Well,
I did not
out of
know
the
that.
out of
And
the original series,
I
that
love
is.
the original Planet of the Apes films, but
It's
I
a freaky movie. It's a
did not
freaky
realize
movie.
that. But still, nonetheless,
Well, the
for a G-rated film that anyone could watch, this is not for kids.
well
I
the
think, oh, good.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the letter rating system from the MPAA was introduced in 1968,
Hmm.
and at the time they were
Hmm.
still trying to figure out what ratings to give to what movies, and the G
Right,
rating was actually kind of more like what we would think of PG now, the big
Hmm.
rating that was geared for
right,
family-friendly audiences in general,
right.
as opposed to kids' movies specifically. It was a bit broader. And
Right.
then
And
there was
Brennan and I have talked about that before, especially when we talk about 80s movies, how some movies are PG that should not be PG, but that was the time of the change. So I get it. This is instated here. But you guys talk about when you were younger seeing this. It just boggles my mind that, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, but that any kid would watch this and enjoy it because it's so hard to get through. Now, I will say, this is not a bad film, it's a boring film. But I can look
welcome
at it academically and go, there are things here I see. I see this. Okay, I get it. I don't like it, but I get
welcome to slow cinema, bud.
it.
Well, it's better than some of the modern solution in at least.
Oh, it's so much. I will also say this. It is probably one of the, if not probably the best Kubrick film. He does everything so varied. He's a varied auteur. In terms of genre, not always in tone, but definitely this was the one that I looked at and was like, I do have a lot of questions. I have a lot of ideas here, and I don't feel, or I feel that him working with Clark probably helped in that because other adaptations that he did, The Shining, while a great horror film, is not a great adaptation. And I'm a big fan of the book.
That's true.
But that being said, it's a boring film. I don't like it, but I can appreciate everything that's in here and understand why this is the classic that it is. Do I understand everything that's going on? Can I begin to tell you what the monolith is other than what happens? Absolutely not. And those questions keep it going, and that's what makes it, in the mildest form, interesting. This is a great discussion film. This is not a film, hey, let's watch 2001: A Space Odyssey. Probably not.
It certainly takes dedication to watch this film.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the plot, and it's hard to define the plot of this movie. Essentially, it's broken up into several segments, all of which dealing with the mysterious alien monolith that functions to, or at least as I interpret it, uplift humanity, to send us in a path of evolution. You have the Dawn of Man sequence, which involves a tribe of proto-humans, probably Australopithecus. I can never say it.
Astropithecus.
Yes, I always have such a hard time saying that word.
Mm-hmm.
A tribe of them discovering the monolith and being taught or learning how to use weapons, which gives them a dominance over the other tribe. We jump ahead to the later with on the moon. Scientists discover yet another monolith on the moon. That sends a signal to Jupiter, which then brings us to the third segment. The mission to Jupiter to discover where this signal was being sent. Which then leads into the Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite segment, which is a transcendent experience that seems to evolve astronaut David Bowman into a higher form of existence. Trying to define the plot of this movie simply is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about it. Scott, you're our guest. What are your thoughts on the plot and the story?
Well, first of all, I must say that I have mixed feelings about this movie.
Hmm? Okay.
And some of my ambivalence stems from where I think Kubrick and Clark were going with the story.
Mm.
Kubrick and Clark were both atheists.
Hmm.
And they, and bearing that in mind, it seems to say a lot about what they were saying. It's on surface level, saying that mankind evolved from apes, but also they're suggesting that mankind was inspired by beings on a higher plane of existence. And I don't know if they're trying to reach for the truth of that is of what I or Brennan or whatever believe religiously, or if without realizing the significance of it, or if they're deliberately making a mockery of religion
Hmm.
because it shows David becoming, spoiler alert, a star child at the end, but presents in a way that you don't really know how to feel about that.
Hmm.
That be, but all that being said, I'm still a big fan of the movie, if
Yeah,
only because of the production design and the special effects.
well, you make a very interesting point because, I mean, certainly within the fictional setting of the movie, the idea of aliens uplifting humanity is a fascinating idea that's been used in a lot of science fiction. And this might be the most influential version of that. Um, Now, the whole question of human evolution, if we're getting into the reality of it, that's a whole ballpark right there. I know that for myself personally, the idea of humans evolving from lower hominids doesn't bother me at all. But in a fictional setting, it does make for interesting storytelling. Now, the idea of is it trying to explore the truth of humanity's evolution? It's hard to say because it is a fictional story. And certainly some people have interpreted it that way, as maybe it was aliens that triggered the evolution of humanity. But it is an interesting question, which of course, is something probably best left to philosophy classes. But it is an interesting thing when you consider that, yeah, there were atheists. But the way I look at the film is not trying to explain the reality of humanity's existence. I look at it as within the fictional story, that's what they're saying. In reality, well, we can discuss that in theology and philosophy classes. Chris, your thoughts on trying to define the plot here?
I think, like human existence, we are always on a quest to understand and to define ourselves.
Mhm.
Not just where we have been and who we are, but where we are going. And I think that is what this film is about human evolution. Now, whether you believe in creationism and poof, we were here, or you believe in evolution, I think that this film really it doesn't have to question faith, because I'm a firm believer that listen, we as believers of biblical teaching, we believe in the creation story. Well, what is God? What is God? That is a question none of us could answer. Could you interpret God as being some alien entity, some extra dimensional? Maybe. Maybe, who knows? That's not something I care to challenge as saying right or wrong. I just say it's possible. So the ideas of us questioning and looking into those leaps and jumps into human evolution and how we grow and how are we to become more than what we are, I think that's the point of this film. And I don't think it is to critique. He's an atheist, absolutely. But I think that opens up the possibility of where did we come from? Where do we go? I don't see a way, or I don't see any place where we can't meet in the middle in terms of these times of beliefs. And this kind of movie opens up a lot of those questions and give those opportunities for interpretation. And I actually think that a movie like this can do good to bring true, people who just look at faith and look at it blindly, and those who think no, it's science, a fact. I think it brings us a little step closer to the middle together.
For what it's worth, I think that faith and science go hand in hand.
So,
Agreed.
me too.
And we've heard it a million times in Marvel movies, and that the understanding of magic or the unknown is just science and technology we don't comprehend.
Which is interesting because that's what Arthur C. Clarke himself said.
So best example, Bible says, on the first day God said, "Let there be light." Could that be a metaphor for the Big Bang? I don't see why it can't. Is that absolute truth? Do I know that for a fact? No. Do I believe it's possible? It's an interesting interpretation of the idea. And on a scientific basis, in college, I seriously flirted with the idea of majoring in anthropology. It's a fascinating
Mm-hmm,
subject.
mm-hmm.
I didn't. I went English, but I like anthropology.
Me too.
Um, and when you take a look at the evolutionary scale of planets, when we look at that and then compare it to what the Bible says within, the 7 days that God made the earth, it's interesting that they follow the same growth patterns that we would expect a planet or a universe to be created in. There's similarities there. Exactly like, no, but what is a day to God?
Time
What is the
probably means nothing to him.
exactly what is a day? What is the growth, creating man? And man didn't come till much later down the line. That wasn't a first or second day make.
I mean, there was no life on Earth for 1 billion years, if you think about it. I
Right.
mean,
So I too can't explain the plot of this film other than it's an opportunity to introspectively view the question of human evolution and the definition of our existence. Do we get an answer? No. But is
I
it
mean,
still important that we explore it? Absolutely.
the great science fiction always has great questions about existence.
Mm-hmm.
Let's think real quick. We've covered Blade Runner on this show. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, good grief. Talk about questions of what it means to be human.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the case of this film, so let's jump to the characters. Now, this is not what I would call a character piece. There is one character in here that's fascinating. The other characters are not particularly interesting on a deep level. Moonwatcher, Dr. Floyd, Dr. Bowman, and Dr. Poole are not very defined characters, and I think that it works to the movie's advantage to have them be that way because the idea of these are just run of the mill, normal people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we are. That's what most of us are. We're just running around doing our thing. Yeah, most humans are not the most interesting people. Um, and I think that works to the movie's advantage because it is an exploration of the normality of humans becoming more. So as far as the actors are concerned, play these other characters. I mean, certainly we have Gary Lockwood. This is a Star Trek podcast. It was Gary Mitchell
Mm-hmm.
in uh in Star Trek. Um,
And I should point out that Where No Man Has Gone Before, that's the second Star Trek
mhm,
pilot, was
mhm,
filmed, I think, in sometime in the middle of 1965.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And 2001 actually started filming later that same year. So uh, Gary Lockwood, I think, knew going into Where No Man Has Gone Before that he'd be doing 2001 pretty soon.
Yeah, and so he has two major points in science fiction history.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as those people are concerned, they're not nearly as interesting. But the most interesting character here, and perhaps one of the greatest characters in cinema history, certainly one of the greatest villains, isn't even human at all. HAL 9000.
I can't do that, Dave.
Yes, a fascinating character who we can debate endlessly as far as is he sentient? Is he merely mimicking human behavior? Why did he go crazy and kill everybody? These are debates that people have been having for almost 60 years.
Which we ourselves have discussed when we looked at Measure of a Man and looking at
Yes,
data.
the
We asked the
idea of what it
same questions.
means. Yeah.
I argue that fundamentally, other than in the idea of killing people,
Hmm.
there is not much of a difference between HAL 9000 and Data. Not really, except Data has a body and HAL doesn't. But a consciousness or some level of consciousness that has to be admitted to exist.
Yes. Was played by a Canadian Shakespearean actor named Douglas Rain, who gives a brilliantly emotional, yet still emotional performance.
Mhm.
Heck, even arguably the greatest movie villain of all time, Hannibal Lecter. Anthony Hopkins said he was thinking of Hal when he was playing Hannibal Lecter. With the dead-eyed stare that Hal has. So as far as characters are concerned, Scott, your thoughts on HAL 9000?
Um, well, I think that Hal is self-aware,
Hmm.
and I think that distinguishes Hal from real life AIs.
Good point.
Also, I should mention that I'm thinking of a parody that the cartoon series Animaniacs did
Oh yes, oh yes.
of 2001, Space Odyssey, where Yakko, Wacko, and Dot were on board a ship that looked like Discovery One that was powered by a computer named AL 5000.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that they deduced that, um, okay, he's sounds kind of monotone or kind of boring, um, or something along those lines. Then they said, I got it. It's not a computer at all. It's the vice president.
Mm, yes, oh, yes. Yes, Elgar is actually alive. Yes, it's such an interesting character as far as understanding his motivations, understanding his existence.
Mhm.
Great questions such as, does he go crazy because he can't handle the idea that he might be fallible? Hmm.
Well, he they deliberately tried to make Hal feel more human than the human characters.
Ah, yes.
And it wasn't the only place where they did that. There's in the scene where Heward Floyd's moon shuttle comes in for a landing,
Yes.
and it's shown descending in down below the lunar surface into what appears to be a storage area. Um, the ship just very subtly is designed to suggest maybe a face.
Yeah, we
And
noticed that. Yeah.
so next time you watch the movie, take a close look at that shot. It's right at the end of the Blue Danube playing,
Mhm.
where it looks like there's a face on the spaceship. Like the spaceship itself has a face and is able to emote.
Mm.
And
Interesting.
that kind of builds on the theme that the humans are becoming less human and the machines are becoming more human.
Reminds you of Blade Runner, the Tyrell Corporation, more human than human. And that movie has a similar element where the human characters are kind of maybe losing their humanity, and the replicants actually have more personality. We may be experiencing a similar thing here. Chris, your thoughts on HAL 9000?
The amount of things that are influenced by Hal, which I definitely see as a commentary by Kubrick, because Hal is just a one-up acronym. So the letters HAL are all one below IBM,
I
which
heard
is
that was a coincidence.
I can't be I don't
Uh,
buy it. I'm sorry, I don't. Right when computer technology and computer companies are beginning to blossom, you don't think Kubrick and
mm-hmm,
Clark weren't questioning that? I don't buy it for a minute. Maybe, but I'm sorry, I won't. Either way,
mm-hmm.
um, the influence of Howell on film is fabulous. The film that we're going to look at in December, Wally, you can't tell me that Otto on the ship isn't
Oh
Hal.
yes, oh yes.
That's Hal 9000. You know, it's been parodied, it's been copied over and over and over and over again. But
Dexter's Laboratory.
Dexter's
Mm-hmm.
Lab, the Terminator films, and Skynet. Skynet is Hal. I'm sorry, it is. You know,
Mm-hmm.
or even in Doctor Who, the Cybermen Collective, which we think of the Borg, but this was way before. You can't tell me that this doesn't influence that. You know, and it's so crucial because for a deadpan presentation on this, there is so much emotion and questioning by Hal 9000. And Hal, I refuse to believe that Hal is trying to do anything but preserve itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I would
preservation.
also I would also bring into the discussion the AI aboard the Discovery in Star Trek Discovery.
Zora.
Yes, Zara.
She becomes self-aware and I think even receives a Starfleet commission or something.
Yes,
It's not a commit. She becomes a crewman, an official crewman. She's enlisted, but
yes.
same idea. I'll take it. Yeah.
The difference though is that Thora, is that her name?
Zora.
Zara.
Zora. Zora seems to have a conscience and a duty not only to the mission but to the safety of the crew members.
Well,
Yes, very, very much an Isaac Asimov kind of idea.
every time we've seen evil computers in Star Trek, it never goes out well. Lore, the Dreadnought in Voyager. Um, yeah, I can go on and on. There's an evil computer. Oh, what's the one in Lower Decks that's voiced by Jeffrey Combs?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of it. Yeah.
I can't
Badgie.
think. No, let's go with Badgie too.
Benji's also an evil.
I was
No,
also gonna I was also gonna think of Peanut Hamper until you said Jeffrey
oh, that's
Combs.
part of it
Yeah, I was gonna
too.
say Tina Hanther kind of goes evil.
No, she is kind of evil for that one too. It is Agamus. I have to go look it up.
Agnes. There we go.
Agamus. Anyway, and again, red light right in the center of the console. That's HAL 9000. That's what it is. So
Jeffrey Combs is.
he was probably around to be HAL 9000. No. Um I just Hal is a fascinating character. And I think overall, when people think back to this film, even when they don't see it or have never watched it, that's what they think of is Hal. Hal had an influence. Hal influences, I think, our approaches to AI today, both in fiction and kind of where we're going. Are we there yet? No. But I am firm to believe that some level of sentience is going to happen one day. Is it going to be like Terminator? I don't know. Is it going to be like Zora? I don't know. But Hal is definitely an influence and an interesting case of of art imitating life
Yeah,
or life imitating art, depending on what order you expect it to be in. Fascinating character, really powerful. And even when he's powered down, it almost feels like he's begging for his life. You know?
yeah, don't Dave. I'm afraid.
How do you not feel bad for him? It's
Yeah,
weird. And you're not supposed, I don't think you're supposed to, but yet you do. It's a
How do you
really,
not?
oh, man.
So, but one might as well ask, how do you feel about Peter Pettigrew? Bring
ah,
in a Harry
mm,
Potter reference. He's begging for his own life. Harry spares him, but he did betray Harry's parents.
mm-hmm,
I think there's an interesting choice in that matter, in that Hal is just trying to preserve himself. Hal was put there. I don't believe that Hal has any evil, malicious intentions. Peter did. Peter made a choice.
yeah, good point.
He made a choice to betray the Potters. Why he did, no one knows. No one knows. He just did. And that's what set a lot of these things into motion. But here, how I really feel is just trying to preserve itself. And this is interesting that we talk about the monolith and human evolution,
Mm-hmm.
and yet our creations are evolving right in front of us. It's a microcosm of what is being experienced by mankind over millennia. Fair to say, millennia, million, whatever you want to put
Years
it.
and longer than millennium.
I just like the word millennia. I think an eon is too long. Anyway,
Yeah, millions of
And
years,
this isn't
yes.
James Bond. This isn't James Bond, so we shouldn't talk about Eon.
well
No,
played.
no,
Well played, sir.
well
Well played.
said, well said.
Well played, Mr. Bond. Anyway,
Additionally, I know it's been great getting deep into the philosophical stuff, but if we want to keep this short, shouldn't we get into some of the technical behind the scenes stuff of the movie and also our original mission statement of comparing the movie and the book?
Well, it's very interesting that you mention that because we've already discussed some of the themes, but one thing we cannot leave out
mhm.
is the music. We have
I,
to talk about the music. The use of classical music in this film.
Was
It's
not planned
probably
originally.
the best use of classical music in any movie.
mhm.
And unplanned, Alex Dorris had written a score, which did not really work with the film. And so they turned to Richard Strauss, Johann Strauss, Georgi Ligeti, Adam Khachaturian, and arguably, in the case of the use of Also Spake Zarathustra,
Mhm.
and Ligeti's Requiem for the Monolith themes.
Um,
Some of the most
fun fa
iconic use of music in movie history.
Fun fact, years ago when I was in Boy Scouts, I think I may have mentioned this but in our Apollo 13 episode.
I remember that.
Um, I
Yes.
made a I made a movie about Apollo 11. Brennan
I
was in it
remember
too.
watching it. I remember watching it.
And I was so strongly influenced by 2001 that I decided to use the music from 2001 as the music in Apollo 11
I
and a
remember,
half.
yeah.
So also Sprach Zarathustra played during the main title sequence.
Mhm.
The Blue Danube played during the end credits, and I also had some of Georgi Ligeti's pieces playing during the descent to the lunar surface and on the lunar surface.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk. I mean, but Ligeti's music in particular. The use of his music during the monolith scenes is some of the creepiest music in film. Those scenes are creepy. They are downright creepy. And Ligeti was a modernist classical composer. Wrote his Requiem It's the Kyrie segment. And of course, the movie opens with Also Speak Zarathustra.
Mhm.
Actually, technically, it opens with atmospheres.
That's true.
If we're
It
going,
opens with the overture. That's right, in Atmospheres.
Right.
And we get the use of Also Speak Zarathustra, I think, 3 times in the film.
Mhm.
At the beginning, when Moonwatcher discovers you can use a bomb as a weapon. And at the end, when Dave Bowman returns to Earth as the Star Child. The use of music here is extraordinary. And I'm sure that Alex North wrote a good score, but I doubt it would have been as effective as this. Chris, your thoughts on the music?
Wow. Listen, I'm going to make a completely opinionated statement here. This film, even more than Disney's Fantasia, made classical music popular again.
It's a good point.
Um,
It's a good point.
because like the Blue Danube Waltz. First of all, I will say this: my favorite scene of this film actually was the approach to the space station
Yes.
in the opening. The that was actually very interesting to me to see the different views and angles and just the ballet that is playing out and using da 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 da. It's flowy, it's beautiful, and it sticks with you. And I think if I timed it out right, it's like a 10-minute song. They don't cut it. It just keeps going.
Mm,
they
I
don't
know it's
shorten it, but they do split it up.
yeah,
that's
I know, but
true.
in the film,
That's
I think
true.
I seriously think it's like 10 uninterrupted minutes when they first do it. It's like 10, it seriously like feels like 10 minutes. But it just kept going and I like that. And then um so I have to clarify because my knowledge of names is bad. Is Zarathustra, that is the dun dun
Yeah.
dun dun. Okay, okay. Never known the name of it. I
And
didn't
that's
know that.
Richard Strauss, I believe.
That's Strauss. I knew who did it. I didn't
There
know
are
the
several
name of it.
Strausses involved in this film.
Yeah, so that one was so appropriate. Especially when you consider the heavy timpani that they're throwing dun 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 dun, and you watch man, I'm gonna call them the apes just for simplicity, but I know it's more than that. But when you watch them and they get the tools for the first time after encounter and just but it's almost in rhythm with it and it's so powerful and so good, and that song is popular because of this movie. It's not the only reason, but it made it recognizable. His use, Kubrick, and the decision to make the film something that there's not a massive amount of talking and dialogue. Now it's there, but it's interesting how well the music really plays into the moments and goes with it. We don't need a lot of massive exposition. There's a little bit at times, a little bit, but Kubrick just lets you take in the moment around you and watch what happens and has a soundtrack playing to go with it. That's a smart way to do it. This film uses, previously done music in such a smart way. At I would argue again, along with Hal, the music is probably one of the most memorable things to this film. People know it's used in this film. They may not ever watch it. Again, they know it's there. So the choices in music were very smart and very well appreciated because I found myself enjoying parts a little more just taking in the music and taking in the scenery. And we'll talk about the spectacle because they play hand in hand.
Yes.
But yeah, music wise, these were fabulous choices.
Uh,
And I probably like classical music better, honestly, by seeing it in action.
Scott, your thoughts on the music?
More of the same. I guess. Um, well, I'm admittedly I'm not as big a fan of Georgi Ligeti's work.
Neither am I.
I feel that it's really effective as used in 2001, but it's not really my glass of root beer.
Yeah, it's definitely modernist classical, which it can be kind of hard to listen to.
But the use of also Sprach Zarathustra and the Blue Danube,
Yeah.
I enjoyed those a bit more.
It's, Scott, you had mentioned some of the behind the scenes, so I'll let you guide us kind of through that. So what do you have to add about the making of the film?
Well, I think it's interesting that even though it has kind of an American sensibility that is
Hmm.
made by an American director, Stanley Kubrick, starring a couple of American actors, Cara Dulé and Gary Lockwood, both of whom were actually fairly well known in the 60s.
Oh,
Um,
they were.
um, but it was actually filmed in England.
Yes.
And for the production design, they just had discussions with NASA to make it feel as believable as possible in terms of the design aesthetic. And I guess one of the most mind-blowing things about the production was the centrifuge set.
Yes. Oh, yes.
But what's interesting to note is that they didn't invent the idea of having a centrifuge in a movie. That this thing had actually been done before, and in a musical of all things. There was back in 1951, there was an MGM musical called Royal Wedding, where they built a hotel room set inside a centrifuge that allowed it to look as though Fred Astaire was dancing up the walls and on the ceiling.
Ah, yes, the very famous scene of him doing that.
Well, that's basically how they filmed the centrifuge scenes in 2001.
But it's interesting because it reminds me also of the great hallway scene in Inception,
Hmm.
where they built the entire thing on a gimbal so they could spin it around
Hmm.
and make it look like Joseph Gordon-Levitt was fighting a guy in zero gravity.
It's not the
Hmm.
only one that's done that too. I'm thinking of horror wise. In the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, when they're in the hospital room and you see her climbing the walls, and then eventually in another film, Freddy climbs the walls, and they use similar techniques. Build a
Mm.
whole room and have the ability to move people. It's really great.
S- Anything else, Scott, about the behind the scenes?
Um, let's see. I know that I think they had stunt doubles in the spacesuits for some of the spacewalk stuff,
Makes sense.
but I also know that Carey Dulé did that stunt himself, where Dave Bowman uh, goes back into the airlock.
Goes through the airlock, yeah.
And the way they filmed that was they filmed him falling towards the camera, and he was attached to a rope that was between that Dulé was between the camera and the rope, so the camera couldn't see the rope. But yeah, he was lowered on a rope towards the camera.
Effects of this film, still, by today's standards, are incredible. Mm. But in terms of just the one thing really quick, the scientific accuracy. This is maybe one of the most accurate, or at least trying to be accurate, science fiction films of all time. I don't count Apollo 13 because that actually happened. But The Martian, which we've covered, is another film that tries very hard for scientific accuracy.
Mhm.
And 2001, one of those rare films where space is silent, like it really is. And I tell you, some really creepy moments of just hearing the actors breathing and nothing else. But the attention to detail. in this film is extraordinary. And the idea of the spaceship having the centrifuge in the inside and the way it's designed is very, very accurate to what could exist. Um, and that attention to detail is rather amazing. Um, so let's talk about let's end by talking about the other standout of this film, and that is the spectacle of it. This is a visual film. This is visual storytelling. It's a movie that relies a lot on its visuals. With visual effects, as I said, that still look good by today's standards.
Mm-hmm.
Featuring, of course, the incredible split-screen Stargate sequence. This movie, they went all out to get the visual aspects stunning, and the camera work is. This is some incredible cinematography that arguably still holds up today. Scott, your thoughts on just the spectacle presentation of this film?
Well, I do think that that's a really good example of pure cinema, laying the visuals and the sound, not so much dialogue, but the sound and the visuals in marriage to each other, really telling the story. And this is actually very much unlike what Stanley Kubrick usually did. Usually, Kubrick usually had some voiceover narration in his movies to cover some plot points more succinctly.
Very
And he
limited
and
a
he
few
actually
years later.
and he actually considered doing the same thing on 2001. Some versions of the screenplay have leaked and have contained extensive voiceover narration. But then he decided for this one movie, it would actually be more effective to leave all that out.
Yeah, it's the Blade Runner problem. It's you have the voiceover and it kind of takes away from the film. Yeah,
And
that's a
then,
good point.
but at the same time that the movie 2001 was in production, there was also the novel
Hmm.
that that Arthur C. Clarke wrote at the same time that Kubrick wrote the screenplay for the movie. And the novel, being a novel, has no choice but to have narration explaining everything.
Hmm.
And and it allows basically the reader to understand a bit more easily what's going on without disclosing everything, of course,
Yeah,
but just explaining it, spelling it out a bit more just makes it easier to understand what's going on. And incidentally, the book contains some things that didn't make it into the movie. For example, in the book, they were actually going to Saturn, not Jupiter. And but they ended up switching to Jupiter in the movie because the visual effects artists couldn't come up with a convincing Saturn to appear on screen, so they switched to Jupiter. But I just think that's interesting that in the movie it's Jupiter, in the book it's Saturn.
yeah, and in the movie it's Europa, in the sequel, and in the book it's Iapetus, I think. So it is very interesting that the book is written concurrently with the movie,
Yeah,
which is a
but going back,
very rare occurrence in cinema.
but going back to the spectacle thing, I think it really helped that the movie was filmed in Super Panavision 70.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, visually, I mean, you could take any shot of this film and it's gorgeous. I mean, some of the moments are just like painterly in their quality. Chris, your thoughts on just the visual presentation of this film?
So there are a couple of things. First of all of the matte work that exists is fabulous. I'm a big fan of matte work. It is a lost art, and it shouldn't be, because the time and effort that it takes, I know a computer can do it too, but there's just something about being able to put those hand details, those little things that just, oh, it's so beautiful to look at. And I have to give credit for set design.
Yes.
One of the things I really loved about this film, and I don't normally like it, is all the assumed product placement that was going
Oh,
on.
yes. Bell telephones,
Bell
Howard
Telephone,
Johnson's,
Howard Johnson, and Marriott was, I saw a sign for
Marriott,
Marriott, like, but and the space shuttle that went up there was a Pan Am space shuttle. Love that. All the little the grip socks or the grip shoes that they were wearing have the Pan Am logo all over it. Like, it was dripping with product placement. But the really cool thing that I like was when they got in the space station, besides the telephones, which, by the way, I'm going to talk about predictive technology here in a second. But and isn't that a cameo from Kubrick's daughter?
I believe
Yes,
I think that's
it
Kubrick's
is.
daughter. Yeah. Anyway, um, the layout color-wise of the space station is an inverse of the TWA style, and now the TWA hotel that's out at JFK International Airport.
Yes.
It's not exactly like I said. I think it's inverted a little bit, but that's what it reminded me of.
Of course, the old-fashioned stewardess costumes.
Yes, yeah. Um, it just was such a joy, and yet it's so simplistic. The set
Yes.
design isn't overtly complicated. It just lets you take in what's there.
And the
And then
mid-century modern red chairs.
the red chairs, yeah. But like I said, if you ever get
Ironically, with Soviets sitting in the red chairs.
a chance to, there's too much to talk about with this film.
Yes.
Um, it just, in terms of looking at it, it was absolutely beautiful, actual gorgeous. If you ever have a chance to go to the TWA hotel at JFK International, please do. You will see what I am talking about. It's this future retro thing, and it really works. So this is enjoyed it. And then getting into each of the spaceships and just seeing the designs that are going on, and the depth and the scope and the size, and it didn't feel cramped. And yet I really love the focus on gravity and design all around. For example, the when the stewardess is doing the walk around, and
Yes.
how all of it is still structured, that when you're looking at it in the camera frame, it's still eye appealing. It's not boggling or confusing. You see what they're doing. Now, granted, it's from our view, it's her moving, not the other way around, but to plan all that out so you could see that and to do it before we're talking about a lock gimbal is fabulous.
Yeah,
This
or
film,
even details like the pen floating
oh,
is
the
a great
pen. I heard the
detail.
pen floating was a bigger trick than we think it is.
Yes.
It
But
was a,
oh, good.
it was attached to a glass panel in front of the camera,
Mm-hmm.
and they were rotating the glass.
I mean, it's just
Oh,
amazing what they're doing here.
and you can't see it. It's not like there's another one where they use glass, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, there is
When
a
in
print of that where you can
Yeah,
see
when
the.
Indy falls down with all the snakes and you see him face to face with a snake, there's a glass panel in front of him. If you look very carefully at one lightning flash, you can see it's a glass panel. Like, this doesn't have that. This is smooth. It's clean. The special effects are all practical, and it's gorgeous. This is the part of the film, besides its overall themes, that I love to death. It is a great film to look at and to watch, and then combine it with your classical music, and it keeps you moving forward. It keeps you going with it. I do appreciate that. Again, it's still long. There are some things I think could be cut down. That's my personal opinion, but it's still beautiful to look at. The spectacle here, if you're not into the heady discussion, if you're just into classic special effects done crisply and done right, this is a film to watch.
I concur with that assessment.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is a visual film.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting because so the reception of the film, we won't delay the point, but it didn't get the best reviews when it came out. They were a bit mixed, but over time, it has been well received.
Stanley Kubrick was nominated for Best Director at
He
the
was,
Oscars for
yes,
this
rightly
movie.
so.
And it did win an Oscar for Best Visual Effects. As it should.
Yes, and it was also nominated for its screenplay, which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Losing Best Director to Carol Reed from Oliver, and losing screenplay to Bill Brooks for the producers. And so I don't think it's too much of an upset there. But regardless, this has gone down in history as one of the greatest achievements in cinema. And is one of the most influential movies ever made. And is a film that I think everyone should watch at least once. Just to see it. And if it doesn't work for some people, that's fine. But it is a film not to be missed. And with all that said, I turn the call back over to Captain Ingle.
Yes, indeedy. Thank you so much, Brennan. And Scott, thank you always for coming in. And we love having you because we always get a really good discussion. And you always got some great background information. I love having that with you. Thank you so much. You have anything
Glad
to
to
plug?
Um, let me think. Yeah, not really.
Okay, then. Not a problem. All right. So next week is Star Trek Enterprise. Star Trek Enterprise. We are resetting the cycle. And I believe the episode next week is Regeneration.
Yes.
Yes. Season 2, episode 23. Regeneration. A lot of fun. So I addressed it in the last one. We actually filmed these 2 episodes out of order just to get some things in the can because your captain is taking a trip to the holodeck to play in Sweeney Todd for 2 weeks. So we got a little ahead of ourselves.
Yes.
But next week we will be taking a look at that. And then when we come back after Commander Brennan, he's taking over the ship and it's his birthday week. So he'll be doing something special for us. Huh?
Mutiny.
It is mutiny. He'll be doing something special. He hasn't told me what he's going to do. But after that, we're going to be taking a trip over to Strange New Worlds. Not Discovery, because Discovery gave us a 31st century episode. So we'll be taking a look at season 2, episode 4, Among the Lotus Eaters. We got a lot coming up.
Yes.
All right. Brennan, where can the people find you?
Well, first off, I do have my live stream for my birthday on October 3rd. My birthday is actually on October 8th, but I'm doing a live stream on October 3rd. On 6 p.m. to 9:30 Pacific time.
Awesome.
You can find me on Blue Sky, brenmart.bluesky.social. On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube at Page Turners They Were Not.
Awesome. And just to give you a sneak peek of next month's movie, I won't tell you what it is, but it is astounding. And when you watch it, time is fleeting.
Yes.
And madness takes its toll. Yep, that'll be a fun one to watch.
Oh boy.
Have you ever watched that one, Brennan?
No, not.
This is going to be interesting for Brennan.
Yes.
We'll definitely have some guests on for that. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at CIngle1984. But as always, we end every episode, Kapla, live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.